Okay, good morning, Yetral. So this is going to be our last key knowledge point for operations management. And after this, we are going to head into revisions next week, and then we are going to have a hurdle task, which is the practice sack in week 6, Monday. Okay. Now, the key knowledge point that we are going to cover today is global considerations in operations management. So global consideration of sourcing of inputs, overseas manufacturing, global outsourcing, and an overview of supply chain management. Okay. Okay. Now, when we're talking about global considerations in operations management, what do you think about that? Okay. Now, global considerations now. Having a global business is really important these days. We have lots of businesses that are competing in the global market. Okay, now when we're talking about global market, it means that you're running the business outside of your country. Okay, so that is included in the global market. Now why would you like to go globally? Okay, so when we look at going outside our country for business purposes, what does it help us? Okay, we go there because of the high quality materials, strategic location, so low cost of labor, there's low cost of raw materials, there could be economic factors, lower taxes, low trade tariffs, and there could be free trade agreements between the countries. Okay, so these are some of the reasons we go globally for our operations, because we want to meet the business objectives that our business is having. Okay. Now again, cheaper inputs here means cheap raw material, cheap labor. Global talent is if there's more talented people in another country based on your business, then it might help your business to actually have the processes, operations processes in that country. Okay. Now, global sourcing of inputs. Now, global sourcing of inputs is when a business sources its inputs from other countries. Okay, so for example, if you're just looking to set up a business in Australia, but you're sourcing your inputs from another country, so maybe China or India, Bangladesh, any other country, that means you're sourcing your inputs from global countries. Okay. Now the reasons for doing this is, again, we talked about this earlier, high quality inputs, because you may have better quality products at lower prices. Cheaper materials, you will likely to go outside for the materials if you're getting them cheaper. Okay, again, as I said, it is linked to your business objectives. One of the business objectives is to make profit. Okay, so you need to be able to get anything cheaper that you could. Okay, so cheaper materials, again, cheap labor, make use of low taxes in other countries. Okay, from what I know, Australia has got the highest taxes around the world, so some of the businesses might go overseas because of the lower taxes as well. Okay, for example, you see Toyota and Ford, they have closed their business plans here and they've gone to another countries. Okay, they've gone to another countries because there's lesser taxes there, there's cheaper labor there. Okay, and they can source cheaper materials over in those countries as well. Okay, so that's the reason businesses may shift from Australia to another countries. Okay. Now the advantages and disadvantages. Again, the advantages are reduces production costs. So if you're sourcing cheaper materials, cheaper inputs, cheaper labor, it is going to reduce your production costs. It is going to improve the productivity of the operations. Lowers prices because you're not spending a lot of money on actually transportation of goods. If you're sourcing your products from there, you're processing them there, and there's low transportation costs, which means the lower prices, and also cheaper materials that you get from that country. Boosts competitiveness, so there's lots of competition in global market, and it is actually healthy for your business. Okay. Now there are some disadvantages of global sourcing of inputs as well. There could be some hidden costs because every country has a different culture, they have different time zones. There could be some hidden costs associated with them. And there could be some financial and political factors that might be different to what they are in your country, so they might be exposed to potential high risk. And again, there's long lead time. So if you're producing the goods, for example, in other country and you want to bring it back to Australia, it's going to have long lead time for manufactured goods because you actually want to sell them in the market. Okay. Now again, there's risks of ports shutting down and interrupting supply. For example, in this present situation of coronavirus, most of the countries have closed their borders, so businesses who are operating globally may be at a lot of risk at the moment. Okay. Now again, your processing might be in one country and then your headquarters may be in Australia, so it is difficult to actually monitor the quality of inputs as well. Okay. Now again, reduce local employment hours. If you're taking your business overseas, then you're not generating lots of employment in your country. Okay. I just want to give you an example of some businesses that have actually taken the businesses overseas. For example, ANZ, Telstra and Energy Australia, all of their call centers have been located in another countries, for example India and Philippines. Okay, because they can source low wage English speaking workers in these countries, so it is actually cheaper for their business to operate from other countries. And also some Australian clothing and footwear businesses, for example Rip Curl, Triangle and Holster, they purchase all their inputs from China using low cost labor. Okay. Now again, the same thing. So Telstra make use of foreign call centers, so they source their call centers in other countries. When you call Telstra or Vodafone, you're actually speaking to a person in Philippines or India. Okay. Costa Group sourcing oranges from California when oranges are out of season in Australia. So again, global sourcing from the outside of Australia. Boeing sources parts from other countries including France, South Korea, Australia and Japan. So again, the aircrafts, they're sourcing their parts from other countries and they're assembling it in another country. Okay. Now overseas manufacturing, again, same as global sourcing of inputs. So overseas manufacturing is when you're actually manufacturing your goods in another country. Okay. Now it is also called as offshoring, which means that a good is produced in one country that is different to the location of the business's headquarters. For example, if you have your business in Australia, you're actually manufacturing the goods in another country. Okay. Now these are really important decisions for an operations area to make where they want to actually produce their goods. Now, why would they do it overseas? It helps them reduce the costs, often via labor costs. So cheap labor, cheap materials, get their products to the market quicker, because they're going to reduce the transportation costs. Okay. And also the delivery costs. The advantages and disadvantages, again, takes advantage of another organization's manufacturing experts, increase productivity. So the country you're looking at doing your manufacturing, they may have better people, they may be running your plant better, so it is going to increase the productivity, lower setup costs. If there's already a facility existing in that country, it's going to take you lower setup costs. Okay. Again, disadvantages, you will lose some control over production process, can impact quality because you're sitting in Australia, your production is going on in another country, you can't control all the processes. Okay. Again, it's going to lead to some corporate social responsibility issues because when you have workers working in another country, you have less control over wages and work conditions, and also you're not generating a lot of employment for your own country. Okay. Now global outsourcing. Global outsourcing is something is where a part of a business operations is handed over to another person or business located in a different country. Okay, so you're actually handing over your business to another person. This is done to reduce the cost of your business, and again improve quality by sourcing experts from another country, and also you'll get more time to focus on the core business activities, which is actually going to improve the productivity of your business. Okay, now for example, software development, call centers. So call centers, it's not the core business. For example, if your main business is Telstra, for example, Telstra, they have their core operations in Australia, but they have their call centers in another country. Okay, so call center is not the core business. The core business for Telstra is selling the phone, selling the technology. Okay, now if they source one of the part of their operations to another country, it's not going to affect them that much. Finance and accounting, so core business might be something else, but they're sourcing their finance and accounting department to another country. Okay, so that gives them more time to work on their core business, and their call centers are being looked after by someone in another country. Finance and accounting, even packaging and distribution, research and analysis, and data entry. It's the data entry at the bottom. Okay, now advantages and disadvantages. Again, I'm going to rush a little bit because I've only got 4 minutes left. Advantage, it takes advantage of another organization experts. Is the same as before we discussed. Lower cost, improves efficiency. Again, disadvantages, lesser control because you're not located at where the processes are taking place. Language and cultural barriers. Your business does not receive full attention because you're not a business from their own country. Okay, again, political and financial factors are to be considered as well when you're doing a global outsourcing. Now, supply chain management. This is the word that you would hear often. So it is a process of managing the flow of supplies from supplier through the operation system and to the end consumer. Now, flow of supplies, how does the flow of supplies happen? Okay, so mostly it is the transport system. Okay, so from supplier through the operation system and to the end customer. So from inputs, so you're sourcing your inputs from your supplier, then it goes through the operations process, and then it goes to the actual customer who is actually going to consume that product. Okay, so all this system is known as supply chain management. Now again, every product that reaches the end customer goes through these processes. Okay, so it has input that goes to the operations area where the goods are actually manufactured, and then it is passed on to the end customer. Okay, it is the cumulative effort of multiple businesses. Okay, now businesses that make up the supply chain are linked together. Okay, that makes the business really easy to run. And if one link fails or cost right, it impacts the end product. Okay, for example, if the supplier is increasing the price of the inputs, it is going to affect everything. Okay, the end consumer is going to pay all the prices. Okay, now this is just an example. So for actually getting to, sorry, I'm just trying to move this on. This to the other side. Okay, so you're sourcing the cloth from supplier to the factory where the manufacturing is going to take place, and then just going into the shop. So you can see there's 2 transports there. So this is the supply chain management. All this process is the supply chain. Again, supply chain management. So the businesses need to see beyond their business, and they need to work out the ways where the cost and quality can be improved within the supply chain management. Okay, now they also need to consider that the businesses need to be efficient and effective. Access proximity to suppliers and customers, so review the quality of supplies, audit cost of supplies and transportation. So they need to consider all of this to be able to do the business efficiently and effectively. Okay, now supply chain management advantages and disadvantages. So ensures enough materials are available, and the quality is high. There's fair value of cost. And also the products are not delayed in hitting the market for sale. Disadvantages, it might be complicated, and high cost at time is required professional highly trained staff. Okay, so